Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Ultimate Travel Podcast. My name is Motek and I'll be your host. For our first show, we are going to talk about one of the most beautiful countries that you can find in Central Asia. Some people even call it, quote unquote, the Switzerland of Central Asia. And that country is Kyrgyzstan. Today I'm hosting Aigul. Aigul is a tour operator in Central Asia that offers cultural, trekking, horse riding tours, well as 4x4 car rentals. She is the manager of the Apple Hostel in Bishkek. So give a warm welcome to Aigul. Hello, Aigul.
Hi, Tamar.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
So, Aigul, every episode I start with the 3W questions, which are: where is it, what is it, and why someone should travel there in the first place?
So I come from Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan is in Central Asia. It's we border with China, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan. And we've been part of the Soviet Union for almost 70 years, but since 1991, it's an independent country. On 31st of August every year, we celebrate Independence Day. So why should people come here? Kyrgyzstan is 94% mountains. So if you're like nature, if you like hiking, horse riding, exploring with 4x4 the country, it's a great place to come. Yeah. It's people often refer to Kyrgyzstan as Switzerland of Central Asia, but like a cheap version of Switzerland.
That's good because Switzerland is really expensive. So you were a part of the Soviet Union. It means that most people speak Russian in Kyrgyzstan?
Yes, that's right. So our native language is Kyrgyz language. It's it has its Turkic roots. So, for example, since I speak Kyrgyz, I can also understand Kazakh, Uzbek, Turkmen, some Turkish and Azerbaijani language. So in Central Asia, there are 5 countries. It's Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan. 4 of them are Turkic speaking, except for Tajikistan, which is a Persian-speaking country. But yes, since all of us were part of the Soviet Union for quite a while, Russian is the second most popular language. Actually, I would say that in Bishkek, it's even more popular. Russian is like a common lingua. So a lot of people speak Russian. Russian is the main language of communication here. But as soon as you go out to the villages, to the mountainous areas, mostly people speak Kyrgyz language.
Okay, so for our viewers and listeners who don't know, Bishkek is the capital of Kyrgyzstan, and Aigul is from there. So it brings me to the next question that, let's say I'm not a Russian speaker. Is it difficult to travel in Kyrgyzstan as an English speaker?
It could be, because mainly you would find people who speak English just in the capital, in Bishkek, like you said. But outside of Bishkek, people don't really speak English unless you go to touristic places. Yeah, maybe it's a hotel, hostel, or youth camps where they've been working with tourists for quite a while. They do know some English, so you can communicate with them. But when it comes to traveling, for example, if you are not on a tour, on a package tour, but you are traveling independently, it can be challenging. Because you have to deal with the drivers. Drivers don't speak any English. Like if you are looking for off-beaten places where, tourists don't come very often, or if you go to restaurants, by the way, also people don't speak English. So you do need to have some basic outline of phrases I would recommend Kyrgyz, but you can also do Russian as well. Even though in the regions Kyrgyz is more popular, still people understand Russian.
Okay, good. So I have another question before we are getting into the tourism part itself, just about the country. So who are the Kyrgyz people? You just mentioned that they are coming from a Turkish-oriented background, but what are the attributes or the culture of the Kyrgyz people?
So Kyrgyz people, traditionally, like historically, we are nomadic people. Yeah. So we like used to move from place to place. We have a yurt. It's like a Kyrgyz nomadic dwelling. It's easily set up in a few hours by three skilled people. You can easily set it up, break it down, and one yurt weighs about 400 kilos. So you only need two horses, yeah, to transport it. So yeah, it was very easy to move. Usually people, they use the moon in order to migrate from place to place, depending on the sun, on the weather. But yeah, it was all based on the moon calendar, not like the current day Gregorian calendar. So over time, though, especially since we became part of the Russian Empire and then part of the Soviet Union, over the years they start settling down in cities that, for example, Russians have already built. In the beginning, it was quite funny because they built the city, for example, and they're like, okay, please don't move, this is a city, you can live here, like these are the houses. But because people are used to moving all the time, they would leave the place and then keep moving. For the Russian government, it was not convenient because, it's hard to control people who are moving all the time. So they would really press it, building more and more towns and, trying to get them settled. And over time it gave results. So people started settling down. And nowadays, we don't have nomads anymore, but we do have semi-nomads. What that means is May till October, when it's warm, people go up to the mountains, as we call Jailo. Jailo means like a mountain valley. They go to Jailo and then they set up a yurt. They take their horses, their cattle up. And then in October, they come down because it's getting too cold, and then they stay in the nearby village.
Okay, so because you started to explain about the nomadic culture of Kyrgyzstan, I want to ask you, and I'll say a disclaimer, I've been to Kyrgyzstan and I met you there about 8 years ago. And I remember that one of the most unique experiences that people offer in Kyrgyzstan is that nomadic experience, is to invite people to those valleys and stay in yurts. So how does that work?
So that's becoming a very popular type of accommodation here. So more and more people are preferring to stay in the yurts to experience the nomadic spirit rather than staying in hotels. So yurt camps are not everywhere, but in major places where tourism is developing, they do exist. And again, May till October normally. Some, they set up later, some they set up sooner. It depends on the weather. But it's interesting experience. You can book accommodation either via tour operator if you're coming here on a part of the tour. If you're traveling independently, some of the yurt camps are available on booking.com.
I also remember that when I traveled in Kyrgyzstan, the way that tourism works there is that you have these local tourist organizations. Like, let's say that you're getting to a certain village, and then it has also initials that now I forgot. And you get there and someone speaks to you and says, hey, like, we have a guy in our village that has four-wheelers, like jeeps or SUVs, or we have a guy with horses, and we have people that own some yurts, right? And they can organize for you some sort of like a package or a tour or an experience. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. You are talking about CBT, community-based tourism. I would just say that community-based tourism here in Kyrgyzstan, they operate just like a travel agency. In fact, there is no difference between a travel agency or between a local travel agency and the community-based tourism. Why? Because travel agencies seem like community-based tourism offices. Yeah, they arrange tours with the locals. Yes.
Awesome. So I want to go into the technical details. So let's say I want to travel to Kyrgyzstan. So first of all, where would I fly to?
So if you are coming, like, for example, through Dubai, Turkey, or even Almaty to Kyrgyzstan, you land in Bishkek International Airport. And then, from Bishkek, you start your tour.
Okay, and for how long should I travel in Kyrgyzstan? What is like the adequate time to really see and have a full picture of that country?
Mhm. It depends what you want to do here. For example, if you were to come to Kyrgyzstan, what would you like to do?
So, because it's a mountainous country and I'm a big hiker, I love
Mm.
hiking, I love the mountains and nature. I'm not such a big fan of horse riding, but I do like any other like outdoor activities that
Mhm.
you could do. So, I would like to see like the nature. I would like to see also like something that is cultural, like the people themselves. And also, I would like to meet other travelers as well.
Mm. Okay, so since I know you, you have a backpacker type of traveling. I would recommend you to stay in hostels to meet other travelers. Make a group and go together, like to explore Kyrgyzstan. But for multi-day hiking, I would say that you would need about 2 weeks. The shortest multi-day hiking that is arranged is like 4 days. Yeah, it's medium difficulty. It's about 4 days, but there are hiking trips which are 10 days. Yeah, well,
Oh,
those
wow.
are those are difficult level hiking. But since you're a really experienced hiker, that's what I would recommend you. Yeah, to come here for 2 weeks, 4 days. It's also you need to consider the altitude here. In Bishkek, the altitude is 700 to 800 meters, and a lot of people, if for example I take them as a guide even to Al Archa National Park, and they're coming from Netherlands, for example Dubai, or countries where the altitude level is at the sea level, for example, they have difficulties breathing. Yeah, so you need a few days to adapt to the local altitude. Then also do some cultural things around, explore Bishkek, see some historical sites, and then do the hiking.
So, Aigul, when is the best time to come and travel in Kyrgyzstan?
Mhm. It depends on what you want to do. So if you want to do multi-day hiking, since you're a very experienced hiker, if you want to hike for 4 days and more, then I would say July, August, and until maybe mid-September. That would be the best time. While the passes are still clear of the snow. Or if you want to do multi-day horse riding, which is 5 days and more. But if you want to come on a cultural tour, you want to do some hiking, maybe 1 or 2 days of hiking, you want to do horse riding, between 1 to 3 days of horse riding, you want to visit the historical sites, travel with 4x4, you can come any time of the year. Tourism is growing here, and yet May till October is the busiest touristic season, especially June, July, August. So if you are not intending to do like medium to difficult hiking or more than 5 days of horse riding, then I would recommend you to come when there are less tourists. If you don't like the cold weather, you could come starting in April. So April, May would be good. September, October would be good.
Okay, so let's go back to planning a trip. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember that when we speak about Kyrgyzstan, generally speaking, there are two main regions or two main areas: the north of Kyrgyzstan and the south of Kyrgyzstan. Now, because Bishkek is in the north, let's first focus on the north. So, let's say that I come to Kyrgyzstan and by your recommendations, I have 2 weeks. So, as a traveler, what I would do, I think, would be to give 1 week to the north of Kyrgyzstan and 1 week to the south of Kyrgyzstan. So, where should I go to outside of Bishkek, like in the north of Kyrgyzstan?
In the north of Kyrgyzstan, so apart from Bishkek, some of the historical sites you could visit are Burana Tower, Tashabat Historical Complex. There are lots of parks like Spiritual Park, Ruhordo. Also, there are many lakes here. Apart from Issyk Lake, which is the second largest mountainous lake in the world, after Lake Titicaca at 1,700 meters, you can visit Songkol Lake at over 3,000 meters. You can visit Kölsu Lake, which is close to 3,500 meters. This lake is close to Tajikistan border, so make sure you get a permit in advance, a few weeks in advance before you come here. And what else? We have Alako Lake at 3,600 meters, which is near Karakol.
Okay, so also, if I remember correctly, I think also you mentioned that place before. There is a very famous and beautiful nature reserve not far from Bishkek, which is called Alta something, I think.
Near Bishkek, we have Ala Archa National Park.
Ala Archa, exactly.
Yeah,
Ala Archa.
yeah.
Can you say a few words about that place?
Yeah, Ala Archa National Park. You can either do it as a day trip. Yeah, if you're not too much into hiking, it's only 50 minutes, 1 hour drive from Bishkek. For easy to medium hiking, even difficult hiking is possible there. There are 50 mountain peaks inside the park, and there is waterfall. For example, if you want to hike to the waterfall, it's a popular destination. It takes about 5 hours up and down. There is the alpinist grave. A lot of the famous alpinists in Kyrgyzstan, they were buried there. It's actually not as creepy as it sounds. It's quite an interesting place. Then, if you want to do a multi-day hike, you can do a 2-day hike and sleep in the park as well. If you have your own camping equipment, if you don't, it's fine. You can rent it in town. You can stay there inside the tent, in your sleeping bag. And it's like you don't need to get a permit for it as of now. As long as you enter, you can pitch your tent anywhere you think is good.
So in other places, in other national parks, do you need to get a permit in advance?
No, you don't need to. You can, if you
Hallelujah.
have, if you have your own camping camp, you can just, pitch it anywhere.
Okay, so you mentioned also the second largest, highest lake in the world, the Isikul. And I remember, I've drove there, so it's east from Bishkek. And is there like interesting things to see around that lake?
Yeah, it's very interesting actually. It's if you have, for example, let's say that 4 days. Yeah, 4 days is perfect to go on a cultural tour around Isikul Lake. So on the northern shore, usually you can stop by Burana Tower, Konorchok Canyon. It's on the way to Isikul Lake. At the northern shore of Isikul, there are petroglyphs. There is Ruhordo Spiritual Center. There are also hot springs all around the lake, both on the northern and southern shore.
So can you explain, you said a cultural tour. What does that mean, cultural tour?
Cultural tour, if you hire a guide, a driver with transport, and you go like on a road, it's not like intensive hiking, just some short hiking. When you make stops at the canyons, you can do 1 or 2 hours of horse riding or hiking, or horse riding as well. But it's kind of like a comfort type of traveling.
That sounds awesome, actually. I also love that kind of experiences, even though, when I was in Kyrgyzstan, I was more rugged, I would say. I took my own tent and cooking gear and everything, and I slept mostly outdoors. But, today I'm becoming a bit older, and my back is not as strong as it was 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I actually adore these kinds of experiences, like when you can just, you have, let's say, a 1 week in the north of Kyrgyzstan, instead of like just getting out by yourself with a tent and all that. You hire someone, they take you for 4 days, they show you culture, they show you nature, you sleep in a yurt. That sounds really fantastic, I must say.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and then on the south, then further you can visit Jeteogus. It's a valley of 7 bulls. Then there is the Barskon waterfall. There is Fairy Tale Canyon. And then on the southern shore also, if you want to watch one of the nomadic traditions, you can watch eagle hunting show. Also, you can see how the yurt is built. Yeah, so usually local people, they show you how the yurt is made, what is made from, how it is made, and you can participate together in setting up the yurt. Yeah, and then on the 4th day, you can come back to Bishkek.
So let's continue with planning our trip in Kyrgyzstan. So let's say I finished a 1 week in the north, and I want to see the south. Now, as I remember, to each area, to each region, there is a major city. So for the north is Bishkek, and for the south is the city of Osh, which is not far from the border with Uzbekistan. So if I want to go to the south for 1 week, what should I do there? Like, what is good to do or to see there?
So Bishkek is the biggest town in Kyrgyzstan. It has 1.2 million people. Osh is the second biggest town. It has between 3 to 400,000 people. Because Osh is close to Uzbekistan, and we have more Uzbeks living in Osh, so 52% Uzbeks. Yeah, the majority are Uzbek people. It's southern area is more conservative than the northern area. I haven't been to this hostel, but travelers, they did tell me there's a hostel in Osh where you cannot drink beer, you cannot bring pork, and if you are coming as a couple, you have to show your marriage certificate. Yeah. So in Bishkek, for example, we don't have hostels like that. But in Osh, it's there is a market. It's Osh market. It's a more than 2,000-year-old bazaar. It's quite interesting. Like in Bishkek, if you feel more like international atmosphere mixed with Soviet atmosphere, because of all the Soviet buildings here, Osh is more, you can feel more Asian atmosphere, I would say. More conservative Asian. Near Osh, you can go to Arslanbob, for example, is the biggest walnut forest. You can go to Sarchelek Lake, Sarchelek National Park. I mean, there are 7 lakes in the park. There is Toktogul Reservoir in the southern part of Kyrgyzstan. It's the biggest man-made reservoir. More for cultural exposure. Yeah. For cultural exposure, to see how the locals live, because it's harder to get to the south than the north. Yeah, it takes more time to go there. It's less touristic in general, I would say. But also, if you're going to Osh, I would. You can go 2 ways. You can either go by car or by plane. But one of the ways, or if you have to choose between the 2 ways, I would recommend you to go by car from Bishkek to Osh. It takes between 12 to 14 hours, but the road is very scenic. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a mountainous road, so you would really enjoy the road. So I would really recommend you to take a shared taxi. There is no bus to go there. You can take a shared taxi from the West Bus Station and experience the beauty of the road.
Okay, so first of all, now I want to tell you a few stories about my experience there in the south. So first of all, you mentioned Arslan Bob, which I remember when I got there. First of all, I was hosted in a house of Uzbek family, and I remember that the most famous activity to do there was the lake trail or the lake hike, where you go up from the village, also through the forest of the walnuts and stuff. And then you can go and you can do it for like 3 or 4 days or even more. And you go from like one lake to another. Now, unfortunately, when I was there, it was already at the end of October, I think, or mid-October. So it was really rainy and foggy. So we just hung out there in the house of the people. And I remember there is an area which is right like at the middle there of the south called Sari Mugol or Sari Tash. I remember hiking there from a certain village. I don't remember the name of the village, but it was a very beautiful village. It took me, I had to hitchhike with a truck driver. The next day I started my hike and I've hiked alone for 3 days. And in looking back in hindsight, I understand it was really a mistake. You shouldn't ever hike alone. You always should hike with someone, or at least tell people where you are, in which area, which I didn't. And at one point I crossed over like a ridge, a mountain ridge, and I got down to the valley and I pitched my tent. It was after a very exhausting hiking day. and I cooked myself dinner, and I got into the tent. And then after maybe half an hour or so, I started to feel the ground shaking, really shaking. And I was, oh shoot, like there's an earthquake going on or something. I didn't understand. And then I heard all kinds of noises. I took my head out of the tent and I saw maybe 30 huge beasts, huge yaks, you know, yak, the animal, and 3 Kyrgyz shepherds on horses riding on, like, you know, shepherding them. And they ran all around my tent. And of course, they didn't speak a word in English. I only know like 3 or 4 words in Russian. So it was a very unique experience. I want to focus on something that we didn't mention. We said horse ridings. You can go on a horse riding. For what I remember from Kyrgyzstan, the horse, the animals, is such an important element in the local culture there. Everywhere you go, you see people with horses. I remember also going to an auction of horses. That's something I would never forget. Like going to it, I don't remember where it was. It was in a some village, but I remember people like bargaining for all kinds of different horses. And now I get to another thing that I remember, and I would like to ask you about it as well. So I will say it also in a story. I was waiting for a taxi somewhere, and I saw these people in the streets have this big jar or container, and they sold something to drink. And it had a picture of apricots on it. So I thought it's maybe an apricot juice. So I asked for it. They didn't give me. They gave me a bowl, not even a cup, just a bowl. And I got something like in a yogurt texture, white, and I drank it. And the people there looked for my reaction, and they were disappointed because I did with my face like, oh. So what was that thing that I drank there?
Horses are our best friends, are Kyrgyz people's best friends. Why? Like there is a saying, proverbs, that horses are wings of a Kyrgyz man. Yeah, so a lot of the stories, you know, have horses. We have lots of legend related to horses. I mean, people believe here that horses are the purest animals. Yeah, so and it's like multifunctional, you know. Kyrgyz people are quite practical, I would say. So they also write the multifunctionality of the horse, meaning that you can ride it, you can milk it and drink the milk, which is very healthy, by the way. And you can also eat it, you know, like I've meet people, Kyrgyz people who who were breeding horses, and then they really, you know, got attached to one horse. So they couldn't eat them, but they sold them, knowing that it was going to be slaughtered. Yeah, because they couldn't eat it themselves. But yeah, like I said, multifunctional. And regarding the auctions, we have, usually you can do so at the bazaars, and the bazaars, they take place in all across Kyrgyzstan. So, for example, if it's in the north and west, it's near Bishkek, it's in Karakol, Kochkor, Narin. Like in bigger villages, you can find the auctions everywhere, usually on Sundays, happening on Sundays. But the biggest one is in Tokmok. Tokmok is about a 1 hour drive from Bishkek, 1.5 hour drive. Over there, there's the biggest animal market. It opens at midnight, and then it ends at about by noon the next day. Yeah, but if you want to buy a good one, usually you go there at night. Yeah, and yeah, that's how you get to buy a horse. And then regarding the drinks that you mentioned, I'm not sure why actually there was a picture of the apricot. I mean, maybe it was just the name of the company.
I have no idea why.
You're talking about barrels, right?
Yes, like a cooler, you know? It was like some sort of a cooler. Yeah.
Yeah, so normally there are 3 coolers, so 3 barrels like that, and then each barrel has a different drink. They don't serve horse milk, yeah. Horse milk is a little bit more challenging to store, and you can find it in specific places in Bishkek. But usually what they do sell is tan, the one the drink that you drank, yeah.
What it's called again?
It's called tan. It's
Tan.
it's like a yogurt, liquid yogurt with salt. Yeah, it's a liquid yogurt with salt. It's a very popular summer drink. There's another one called shoro, Maxim. It's a wheat drink, also fermented. And then the last one is actually a Russian drink. Usually, it's called kvass. It's also a wheat drink, but it tastes more like a soda. Yeah, not as specific as the first two.
Okay, so because we are now getting to the, exciting part for me, let's talk a little bit about the food in Kyrgyzstan. So, or the cuisine. So, what can I find to eat in Kyrgyzstan, and what do you recommend on trying?
So, because traditionally, we are nomadic, most of our cuisine consists of dishes which are made from meat and flour. Yeah, so I'm talking about noodles, dumplings. There's a popular noodle dish called mante. It's a dumpling. Those are dumplings filled with usually beef and onions. Noodles actually, there is beshbarmak. It's translated as 5 fingers because you're supposed to eat it with fingers. It's usually made with horse meat. And as a matter of fact, horse meat is the most expensive type of meat. I mentioned before that people believe that horses are the purest animals also because they're quite picky in the food that they choose to eat, the horses. And they have the least amount of cholesterol in horse meat. And it's the most expensive type of meat. So beshbarmak comes with horse meat. Yeah. There are also like so many different types of other noodle dishes, like gulchatai, for example. It's also a noodle dish. It's just the shape of the noodle is different. And normally it comes with beef. But other popular dish, because Kyrgyzstan is quite international, we have over 80 different nationalities here. It's called lagman. Lagman is a Uyghur dish. There are over 10 million Uyghurs in China. Yeah, they don't have their own country. And then in Kyrgyzstan, we have, I'm not sure the exact number, but we have close to 50,000 Uyghurs living here. And they're really good cooks. Yeah, Uyghurs are very good at cooking. And the most popular dish is lagman, which is also one of the most favorite dishes by Kyrgyz people. It's a long kind of noodles, handmade noodles, and like they're made with topping. And topping usually is made with beef and vegetables.
Okay, so if we're talking about noodles, I want to say something that also we didn't mention before about, it's related to the location of Kyrgyzstan, its history, and its culture as a nomadic nation. So the noodle is originally, as far as I know, is from China. And it's something very important to mention because how did the noodle came to Kyrgyzstan is most likely by the most famous Silk Roads, right? So the Silk Roads went from China through Central Asia and also through Kyrgyzstan all the way to Turkey, to Istanbul. And from there, they shipped the silk to the West, to Europe at that time, and probably also North Africa and stuff like that. So Kyrgyzstan, when you look Kyrgyzstan, or when you look for tours in Kyrgyzstan as a Westerner person, the marketing or the catchphrase that comes to your eyes is the Silk Roads. So maybe can you say something about that?
Yeah, we were part of the Silk Road. So, for example, near Bishkek, Burana Tower. So right now it's called Tokmok, the city where it is in. But during the Silk Road times, it was called Balasagin. It was a very popular trespass for the Silk Road travelers. Yeah, so if you go inside the museum that's located on the territory of Burana Tower, you can see the jewelry, the coins that were used at that time. You can also find the bells. For example, in the past, there were special bells that were attached to the horses, and then when horses were approaching, were moving, it would make sound, right? So when they were moving, it would make sound, and then for example, people who live in the city, they already hear the sound of the bells. That's a signal for them. Oh, okay, the Silk Road travelers are coming, so they start, taking out their best materials, their best products, and get ready for a big sale.
Awesome. So let's now focus on Bishkek, okay, because you're from there. Bishkek, as far as I remember it, is kind of a modern city. There is an international vibe in Bishkek, and I remember there are a few markets in Bishkek. Can you say something about the markets in Bishkek?
Yes, we do have several markets. So, for example, the biggest market that we have in Bishkek is Dordoy Market. It's actually the biggest market in Central Asia, not only in Kyrgyzstan. It's a huge market. It's like a stack of containers and hundreds of rows of containers where people store and sell their goods. And you can find anything there, from construction materials to fast food to furniture to clothing. The majority of clothing that's sold there is from Russia, Turkey, and local production as well, local textile. If you want to see how massive the market can be, you can go there. Another interesting market we have, which is my favorite market, is Osh Bazaar. It's the biggest food market in Bishkek. This market is particularly interesting because you can see quite a lot of ethnicities there. You can see mostly locals, they sell meat. You can see Dungan people, which are a mix of Arab and Chinese. They usually sell vegetables. You can see Turkish people selling flowers, Russian people selling winter salads, pickles. It's quite an interesting vibe. Yeah, especially if you like to buy fresh food and products. But yeah, Osh Bazaar would be one to check out. And then another market that we have is Ortosay Bazaar. It's a little bit further from the city center, but it's also really nice, accurate, neat type of bazaar where everything is the assortment maybe is bigger in a small place. So Osh Bazaar is huge. We can get lost there. Also, if you're coming, if you don't have a lot of travel experience, or I don't know, if you're not very confident, I would also recommend you to have a guide because it's huge. You can get lost. In any bazaar, there are pickpockets in Osh Bazaar as well. But if you're confident, you can just, be careful, and then at the same time, try to enjoy all the places that are there, all the fruits, vegetables, and then there's a special souvenir market inside the bazaar as well. Ortosoy Bazaar is not as big as Osh Bazaar. It's like miniature Osh Bazaar. So if you don't like very crowded places, if you prefer something smaller, you can go to Ortosay. But otherwise, I would recommend Osh Bazaar.
What are the best restaurants in Bishkek?
In Bishkek, it also depends what you're looking for.
I'm coming to Bishkek. I want an experience that I won't forget, like a food experience I won't forget.
People, who don't care about the price, about the cost. I would recommend Supara restaurant. It's just right outside of Bishkek. Yeah, not too far. So, for example, if you go there from the city center, maybe it will take you 40 minutes by car. But it's really high scale place where they have really traditional food, even traditional tea, nomadic tea, where you can try nomadic tea, food. The products they buy from the farmers that live in that area. It's kind of like a village area, but it's also quite costly as well. Mm. Yeah, if you're looking for a mid-range, then in Bishkek, I would recommend Navat or Pishpek restaurant. Those are middle-priced places where you don't get exposed to as much traditional food as in sopara, for example, but still you get kind of the most popular Kyrgyz dishes. Yeah, and if you are looking for something simple but tastes good, and it's not expensive, I would recommend Faiza. Faiza actually is a very local place. It's not a place where you go and then you relax like the atmosphere. No, you just go there, you order the food. The food is good, you eat it, and then it will take you maximum 1 hour there. Yeah, so if you're a little bit short on time, then yeah, this is the best place.
Aigul, thank you so much for being on the podcast. One last thing, how people can reach out to you if they want to organize a trip or get more information?
If they organize a trip, they can message me on Instagram. My Instagram is Central Asian Guide. I'm also a manager of Apple Hostel, so you can find Apple Hostel online. It's available everywhere. And so thank you for inviting me, Tamar.
Thank you so much. Okay, so thank you so much for listening to our first episode. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, share it, like, comment. All of these things are really helping promoting my podcast. And also, if you would like to help me continue creating this beautiful content, you can go to my Patreon page where you can subscribe with a very small monthly fee, and you will get access to some additional episodes, some exclusive content that I'm creating for you. So thank you very much. Keep on traveling, stay ultimate, and I'll see you in the next episode.